Welcome to Surrender School.
Talked about the oh, thank you. Last week we talked about the tail of the acorn. So what I want to share on this week is does anybody want to share on the cracking of the shell of their ego? So some of you that were here last year, I think you kind of actively saw that happening. So what I'm going to do is stop sharing. And what I'd like you to do is just give us some examples of when you've seen the cracking of the shell of the ego.
Just share an experience that happened last night. I typically have trouble sleeping, through the whole night. I'll wake up 3, 4, 5 times. And this morning, my husband said to me, how did you sleep last night? And I said, when I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm convinced that I need carbs to get back to sleep. He said, so what do you do? So I said, well, I went downstairs and I had some carbs. He said, well, were you able to get back to sleep? And I said, yes, I think so. And then he looked at me and he said, wow, he said, that's pretty honest and open for you. So I feel like there's my ego getting cracked a little bit. Thanks.
Thanks, Shirley. Anybody else want to share? Go ahead, Joy.
I keep finding this over and over and over again. What's happening? First being made aware that I'm giving to get, that was really hard to swallow for me. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And I never thought that it was that. I think that was the first thing. And I think it was even before these classes. But I started looking at what I was aiming at when I give, and I really, really, really want to protect my reputation, and I want people to like me. I had a situation recently where I really hurt someone, and it was all about protecting my, I wanted them to like me. And I have two friends, so I had two friends, both have, one's black, one is gay, and they were talking about what's going on in the world right now. And what happened was they were talking about how they felt motivated to take action, and I had to explain myself. And one of them was a 9, and she doesn't normally share about her feelings. And I took over the conversation because I wanted to protect myself and protect who I was. Oh, well, the reason I'm not taking action is because I hurt too much and I have to take out, if I know it, then I have to take. Went on this whole thing. And I really, really hurt my friend. And so I'm also seeing where I'm not so sweet and nice. I thought I was sweet and nice all the time. And my husband's the 6 who weaponizes his words. And well, I do it in a very different way, and I might have shared with, oh, just go ahead. That the kind of tone in my voice that, oh, I'm doing everything and you're going to leave me and not help me. And, don't you know what I did all morning? I didn't even ask for help. I keep getting these awarenesses over and over. And I think the hardest thing about when my ego keeps being cracked over and over, and it's with so much more, but I'm not going to keep sharing because it'll take forever. All the things I'm seeing. The hardest thing for me is to do what Michael Naylor talks about, and that is to have compassion for myself. Because I've been doing it all along, all these years. That's the way I've been running my life. And I see it now, what other people in my life have had to live with being this, being the 2 I am. But I keep saying, I have to have compassion, because if I don't, I'm not taking care of myself and causing more harm. So thanks.
Thank you, Joy. Carmen, to you.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. This is an awareness just from writing on this last question that we had. And I love the analogy to the crack in the acorn, because for many years I heard about when you have that first food thought, put a wedge in that crack before you take action. I never knew what people were talking about because I never saw it. It never happened for me. And now I'm beginning to see that that's starting to happen. And I know it's a result of all of the things that I've been learning from all the different things, all the way, starting with the 12 steps and working through numerous 12 steps, but essentially also, especially the Enneagram and the step 1 science. It's just, it's a whole package now that's allowed me to step back and ask myself what's going on before I do take that bite. And it's a beautiful gift. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Carmen. Vera, to you.
Yeah. So I think this ego cracking is especially for the past month has been very has manifested, although painful, it's really painful. But I did realize over the past exercises how much of my perception kind of colors reality, and how credible it is, how credible it's been for so many years. And very often I've found step 6 and 7 so difficult. What is to become willing to have all these defenses, these projections and patterns removed. And I now realize that it's exactly because I didn't know where I was coming from. It is painful, but it's like, this unmanageability, especially that I see as a result of being powerless over those patterns and projections. This starts to be hope, because there's this parallel message of kind of more grounded. And I think these exercises are just, I don't know how they work. It's like the steps, but they do. All of a sudden I have these, not so much these fantastic insights, but just this small and, intuition that there's something else other than what I'm seeing. So anyway, painful but good.
Thank you, Vera. Michelle, to you.
Hi, I guess I could come off camera. I'm a mess. I am a 4, and my crack today is that I just cracked up right before I came here, and I just was journaling as I was thinking about how is this crack is happening. I see all of my fears. I'm afraid of everything. I try to protect myself in ways that actually, well, I think I'm protecting myself, but I see like they're harming myself. I have a habit to relentlessly hate and shame on myself, and I know that that is wrong, and that's like the first thing I should stop doing. I harm others by projecting my shit on them, my anxieties, my fears, my monkey mind, because I'm just like, like I'm realizing I'm so more anxious now. I don't know. I'm doing a lot of this future tripping, and it's like all based on past fears. And so it's just like in my face. So they're like huge triggers. My perception is often off, right? Like I often am making myself too big or too small in the situation. And then I say, well, is it because I really don't know myself? But I think I do. And that's like the challenge is I'm starting to like speak and have an opinion and like learn when I should shut up, and so it's really, I'm like, I have a lot of growing pains, and because I live with 4 other people, and I like take on everybody's stuff and as a 4, and so like now I see that that's like so 4, like I'm grabbing a hold of it, and like now I'm just like a mess because of what just happened, versus like remembering that, like the self-care before I get so messy. But anyway, I see it all very clearly. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah. And here's the key, I guess I was going to say the trick, but it's not a trick, is to notice and feel compassion for yourself, right? To notice and not beat yourself up, and not even a little. It's like, oh, I see what I did. And then I ask the question, do I owe amends? Which sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. And then I do better next time. All that recrimination that used to be in the middle there, let that go, because you're human, right? Not superhuman, just human. Thank you, Michelle. Let's see, Lori, to you.
Yeah, I'm a 9, and I just wanted to share on the realization of my behavior that I had no idea. I thought I was so mellow and easygoing and that, and then my husband pointed out that I could be passive aggressive, and that like, broke my heart because I'm not that type of person. Well, it isn't that type of person. It's just a behavior, and it's my not dealing with things out front and being willing to talk about things that are bothering me or things I want that's making this anxiety and this anger, frustration come out like someone described as coming out sideways. And that's what it does. It comes out sideways in ways that is rude, cruel. And it's a realization, like you're saying, Cher, a realization, noticing it and feeling compassion for myself, making amends if I need to, and then doing better next time. So thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Jennifer, to you.
Yes. Hi, everybody. So I had an interesting experience on, I guess it was Friday. My organization does something called reentry simulations, and I'm the facilitator of them. And there is a part where in between the rounds, the facilitator is supposed to give out something called life cards. And I always forget to give out the life cards. I mean, always. And so this go round, I gave them to my number 2. And I said, don't let me forget. Or I said, here, you remind me, or you give out the life cards, right? And so, yeah, that's what it was. I asked her to give out the life cards because I never remember. And so I didn't notice that. And when we went on to round 2, I had in my mind, oh, I forgot to give out the life cards again. And I did not see her doing them. So I assumed that she had not. And so I went over to her, I said, oh, that's the last time I asked you to do something, right? Something kind of smilingly snarky to do. And she was like, what are you talking about? I gave them out. And I said, oh, I didn't even see that. And I felt a moment of shame because I realized how much I do that. I blame other people for not doing things just reflexively before finding out, did you do it? And she always does this thing like, I got your back, or, this sort of thing. And I was thinking about this whole experience and the 6 journey and said something like, it's not that I don't think you've got it. I don't ever have it in this circumstance. And what that makes me realize, and especially with this question of how can I trust that my higher power will guide and protect me, and the fact that I just don't, I realize that I'm going to have to learn first the mechanism of trusting myself. Because it can't start with the external. There's no way in the world I'm going to trust that someone or something has my back. And I mean, the fact that I'm here, I've made it to 60. We can argue whether or not I'm of sound mind. My body's breaking down a little bit every day. But overall, I have taken care of myself. Overall, I have been on a spiritual journey where today I am so much further along than I was 10, 20, 30, 40 years ago. And so there's going to have to be something about, or it would behoove me to start learning how to notice, acknowledge, and trust that the footsteps and the process are exactly that. And so that was just one of those ego busting moments where I saw one of those things that I do, but had been blind to the impact on others in particular in the past.
Awesome. Thank you, Jennifer. I feel like everybody is setting me up for the next thing that I'm going to cover in content, which are the greatest fears. And for the 6th, the greatest fear is not having support. So it is deep, deep within you. That big fear is that even if you ask your number 2 to do that, they're not going to do it because there's that fear, right? I mean, it's amazing to me. So I feel like almost all the shares are that. Ellen, I'm going to come to you in a minute. Vera, you had your hand up again, and I don't know if that was because you wanted to share or it was still up.
No, not really. But can I just add that the other ego cracking thing is actually finding out about misinterpretations of other people because they are of a different type, and that's also been very powerful.
Yeah, because we begin by believing everybody sees the world the way we do, but they're completely motivated differently if they're a different type. Yeah, it's awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, Cher. Thanks everybody for service and sharing. So, yes, lowering of the ego for me has come about with the willingness to be seen and heard in my authenticity. So there are many reasons I've been in hiding for many years, work in progress, and I rarely get in touch with anger or rage. And with my healing journey, that's been happening. However, that's not always wise to display either in the moment because it would come out sideways. So, you know, I'm a considered person and I would rather, calm assertive energy. However, the person that knows me best is my husband, and he's even rarely seen anger or rage. Seen a bit now. And he's saying, don't poke that bear. And he's right. So I'm being more honest. I'm not trying to control the narrative of how people see me anymore. And, I'm living my truth. And that feels really liberating. And I'm not turning to food as much now because I'm not eating my words or not acting in with self-harming behaviors as I was before. So that brings me a lot of joy. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Maria Goretti. To move on to the basic fear of each of the types. We've talked a little bit about this, but I want to go into a little bit more information on this. I do want to say after you come back from your breakouts, I'm going to also cover additional gifts of the spirit that you get. So let me cover this. Along that continuum, on one end is the passion, which is basically what caused most our suffering. On the other end are the gifts of the spirit, which help us relieve that suffering, and that's where we grow, right? And I believe that passion is, and the building of the ego structure and all that is specifically tied to our basic fear. It is the greatest fear that we have. And each of the types have a specific fear that then causes that ego structure to be built up to defend. Okay, so type 1, their greatest fear is of being defective. They're afraid. And once again, it's not even afraid that someone will notice they're defective. In all of this, it's the fear that they are defective. Okay. The 2, it says here of being unloved or unwanted. In reality, the 2's fear that they are unlovable. So it's even deeper. Can you see how unlovable is even deeper than unloved? It's like we'll never be loved is the greatest fear. The 3's fear that they have no value at all apart from their achievements. So they are driven to achieve because they want to be admired. And that comes from their greatest fear, which is that they have no value except in their achievements. For the 4's fear that they have no personal significance. Fours are really fascinating to me. I'm not tied in any way to fours, but fours, they get a lot of information from the outside world, which then defines them. But their great need, their greatest desire, if I have a desire in there, is to basically create their own identity. That they want to have an identity that's unique and significant. But their fear is that they have no personal significance. The five, their greatest fear is of being helpless, of being completely helpless, where they can't even survive without help. Okay. The six fears that they are unable to survive on their own and that they will not get the support that they need. That is their greatest fear. The seven, their greatest fear is of being trapped or deprived. Sometimes sevens will say their greatest fear is being bored, but I think the boredom feels a bit like being trapped. What do I do now, right? So their greatest fear is being trapped. The eight, which I talk about all the time, is of being controlled. There's one more layer to that, of being controlled, and that person will harm me. So the greatest fear is truly being harmed by the person who controls me. And nine was really interesting because I got this out of the Russ Hudson, Don Riso book. And then I kind of summarized what they said. And I summarized this of being destroyed. I left it this way because I want to talk about it in a minute. Last year, when we went through this, I talked about that the fear of the nine is being destroyed. And I got a lot of comments from nines that destruction isn't the right word. There's a fear of nothingness. There's a fear of emptiness. There's a fear of loss, of separation, like all those things, which I smushed together to destroy. So it's a fear of nothingness, or a fear of being deprived, a fear of loss. So if you haven't written down your, well, with the gifts of the spirit that I'm going to bring up later, will be out on the website for you to grab if you want to. All right. So, all right. So it's time to go to the breakout room. And the breakout room, we will be answering step 3, question 1. And once again, you're going to read your question and then you'll share on your question. And then if there's other things you want to talk about, because this is going to be 30 minutes. So if there's other things you want to talk about, then save that until everybody's had a chance to share their question and so forth. And then you'll come back to the main room. And this time I will have some information on the other end to share with you. So half an hour, it is right now. Look here, just about 10 after. So in about 20 till the next hour, we will come back. So please be sure to come back after and be sure to share in the breakout room. Topic you'd like to share on. If nothing else, your fears. Do you experience that great fear that is for your type? Go ahead, Melissa.
You know, when you put that list up of the fears, I actually relate to every single one of those fears, not just for the 4. And I don't know if that's just my depression right now, where I feel like a mess, but I actually feel all those fears. And so it's hard for me even today to make sense of things being said at the meeting, because I feel so like I can only describe it as I'm underwater, and nothing's looking clear and I can't think right. So do I think as a 4 that I don't have any personal significance? No, I actually don't. I know I do. I feel defective, so I feel more like the 1s, and I feel all of them, I just feel shit. But I just wanted to raise my hand and say I'm not getting what I used to out of the Enneagram stuff. And it's not your teaching, it's my brain not being where it's hard. If anybody on this call has been through depression, you're just not seeing things. The lights went out, So I wanted to raise my hand and say that and embarrass myself a little. Thanks.
Thanks, Melissa. And I want to say too, this is one of the reasons, by the way, that 4s will often stay away from recovery circles because they feel the feelings of the other people as well. So when other people share, they feel those and they feel it acutely as if it's their own, right? So that is one of and Michael Naylor does talk about that if you ever counsel with him, because obviously he's a 4. And that's what he will say too, that there is a challenge for him to be a counselor, for him to be a therapist as a 4, because it's so easy to identify with the feelings of the other people for fours. So yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Melissa, for sharing very much.
In terms of the significance, yeah, there are points in time in my life where, you know, the idea of achieving something significant. But now I realize that I guess before I discovered the Enneagram, and I guess before I discovered Surrender School, and ACA generally, when I went on a healing path from the dysfunctional toxicity that had invaded every part of my life from childhood through adulthood, and I'm constantly thinking, oh yeah, I'm going to achieve something significant because I'm good at ABC. I was, as Michael would put it, in terms of the sort of funnel, saying the levels of your type, then I was in a unhealthy part of my type because I didn't realize that I'd already had a huge number of achievements in my life. I just didn't recognize them as that. It's almost as if each achievement in my unhealthy thought was an achievement to something bigger when I'd already achieved that something bigger. So the second part that you shared on the screen, I can't recall what that was, but I guess the idea of being significant, it's it's through simple things like meditation and so on, positive thinking, positive feelings, avoiding toxicity, being with people who recognize you for who you are, and being with people who I recognize or see who they are. That's where the significance in life lies. And before I get a bit more tongue-tied and twisted, I think I should stop there. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. And I want to say too, one of the things Michael Naylor, the description that he uses, which I really like, is that as you go down in the levels, it constricts more. And as you move up in the levels, then things open up. And so if you can picture that, right, that there's an opening. I mean, I can remember times in my life where if I was really stressed, I'd start out with my hands like this and I just basically release them. And that's part of my meditation, is this idea of opening, right? Because it's the constricting that drops us down into those lower levels of health. So thank you, Jim. Dorothy, I see that you're there. Can you come on camera? There you go.
Yes. So fear is really timely for me. And I was in a lot of fear this week. And I love the tie in to, my fear as a four being no personal significance. I also identified a lot with like my wings and all that, like their fears too. And I can see that when I look at how I was feeling like so emotionally overwhelmed this week, and like the trigger of it feeling like I don't have agency or power in my life, or so it kind of ties into that no personal significance. I feel like kind of just adrift, and like my choices or actions won't make a difference, or kind of like overwhelmed in the fear. And so I think my challenge too as a four, and I kind of journaled on some of this kind of like and we've talked through about like over identifying with emotions, or kind of my emotions becoming my identity, um, is not wearing them as who I am, like letting them come and go and trusting that this too shall pass, that the fear is not who I am. kind of check the fact of, do I actually have no choice or agency in my life? No. And like, what do I need to challenge that and move through that? What do I need to self-soothe to not be so swallowed whole by that feeling of no personal significance? Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and that idea, because fours lose sight of the fact that this too shall pass. Just absolutely lose sight of the fact that this too shall pass, because sometimes it feels like it won't. It feels permanent, even though it's not. Thank you. Sarah, to you.
Hi, thank you for letting me share. And I kind of shared on this in our breakout room, but I was thinking, a few weeks ago, Cheryl, we were in our other meeting together, and you kind of said, I shared something and I was really emotional about it. And that was the first time you kind of were like, this is because your fear as a 2 is that you're not lovable. And when you said that, it kind of like I was said that like the emoji where the brain like blows up. Like, that's what I felt like. And also like really starting to think about my mantra. So I'm a 2, and so my fear is, not being lovable or not being wanted. And my mantra as a 2 is that I can ask for what I need because love comes from a full well. I just like paraphrased it. And when I started thinking about my mantra, and I started thinking about this fear of not being lovable, then I started to think about how that wasn't true. Like trying not to tell that story to myself. And I realized that I have had significant friends. I've had some of the best friends since college for over 20 years that I talk to every single day. And I'm very close to both my siblings. And I have all this love that just didn't look like what I had thought I wanted. It wasn't romantic love. But I still realized that I had a lot of love, that I was actually very like, I feel emotional talking about it, sorry. And that I had just been kind of looking in the wrong places. And so I just started looking in different places, and I kind of found what was there, and it really helped. So I just wanted to say, sorry, I got emotional. But I wanted to have solidarity with Melissa, so I thought I'd share some tears too. And let her know that she's loved, and with that I pass.
Thank you, Sarah. And yeah, this is the place to have those emotions. Absolutely. Right. Yeah. Some things are worthy of tears. And it's amazing. Actually, lots of things are worthy of tears. Yeah. And realizing, oh, I am loved. That's a lovely thing. It's lovely. Lee, to you. Thank you, Sarah.
Thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Lee, in recovery, and one of the British people that got the time wrong. So thanks for being accepting. I was thinking about the question, but what really hit me was when you went through the core fears, and as a 7, that core fear of being trapped kind of instantly just came to my heart, and it really helps me make sense of a lot. But my question this week that was too late to share was around my fear of missing out. But what really resonated to me was, how can trusting my higher power help me find contentment? And I am in recovery, and I've been abstinent from my trigger foods for 3 years. And thinking about contentment, I can see now that my level of contentment is in direct proportion to my level of connection with my higher power. And I can achieve contentment in my life when I connect and put my program first, but it isn't fully my natural state, I don't think. I think I'm always seeking. So the example that I used was, for instance, I find it very hard to be at home and just still in my own home. So on a nice spring day like today, would I be content pottering around in my garden? No, I'd go to about 3 different garden centres, buy all the bright coloured flowers, and then bring them home, not have time to put them in, and then they'd die because I'd forget to water them. And I just always am looking for the next thing, and often just miss what's right in front of me. But thinking of that that notion of being, the fear of being trapped. We had a fire in our home a couple of years ago, and we've had scaffolding in our apartment block for 2 years, and I was behind scaffolding, and it really impacted my mental health, and my view of the horizon was blurred. And it's really just, even now, I need to go and do more work on this, but really helping me think through goodness. I was like physically blurred and trapped from the rest of the world from a balcony. So yeah, there's no surprise there that felt particularly triggering and difficult. So this is helping. Thank you. And I'll pass.
And isn't it cool to have the realization and go, oh, I see what's happening here. We spend so much of our life not knowing. So yeah, that's awesome. Thank you, Lee. Anne, to you.
Hi, I've kind of forgotten what I was going to say, but I think I got most of it back. I'm a 4, and I also definitely related to at least, and I don't know enough about my wings and things like that, but you know, the first thing I resonated with is the being defective, and then there was another one, but 4, it's about the lack of significance. But then as there was something, it was explained a little bit more about. Well, in any case, I turned it into, or I understood it, or it was written somewhere. It's about not belonging anywhere, and that has been an absolute theme my entire life. I have tried to be part of so many different groups, so many different self-help groups, even a cult at one point, and at some point, I always felt like I didn't belong. And I didn't usually blame them. I blamed myself. You know, it wasn't the group's fault. So I'm just calling myself out on it now, you know, because it's something that historically, after about a year, it's like, well, I just don't know if I fit. I don't know if everyone else is getting so much from this, and how come I'm not getting everything that everyone else is getting? And yeah, it's been a part of my history. So I'm glad to be able to share it here.
Thank you, Anne. Thank you. Teresa, to you.
Hi, thank you. I heard so many good things. I don't know where to start. I find myself like relating to the 4 a lot, you know, as I go. But somebody said something in our group, you know, how they, like I do, I would hide, you know, or not, like try to hide so the other person, or don't ever share my gifts, because I always want that other person to be, you know, like noticed. Or, you know, like when Melissa was saying how she feels, I take things in and I physically feel, you know, like what other people are going through, and it's almost like I take it from them, and then they feel better. But like I find myself with stomach aches lately and all kinds of stuff. So what's the word? I think I'm looking for, like empathic or something. I forgot the name. Like, you know, when you take stuff in, and it's so hard to detach from that. So what I'm trying to learn, like, is to detach and have compassion for the person, but not take it in. And that's really hard to do. Like my body's reacting from not doing it, you know, but you know, and always not shining, like letting the other person shine. And then I would feel resentful, you know, like, why don't they ever hear me or notice me? It's because I kind of set that up, you know. I guess, you know, I think I was supposed to be humble, but sometimes I'm not really humble, and I resent, you know, feeling that way. But anyway, I don't know what I'm saying. There's so many things that I want to say, but yeah, I'm learning so much. Just so thank you.
Thank you, Teresa. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. I see Carmen, Maria Goretti, Dave, have your hands up, so hold on. Are going to close the meeting, and then we're going to do that. I want to talk for a second before I close the meeting about the 2s and 4s when confronted with people that are in pain, right? The 4s will feel their pain with them. The 2s think they have the answer to it. So there's a difference there. So the 2s believe, oh, I can help them. I can make it better. There's something there, right? The 8s will tell them what to do. So we'll set that aside. But the 4s feel with them, and that's kind of their solution. And the 2s have ideas on how they can help them, right? So there is a difference there, but both of them, there's a stressor there, obviously. So, all right. So we're going to say the serenity prayer, and then there'll be more shares afterward, but this closes the actual meeting and the recording and so forth. Okay. So we're going to do the serenity prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and wisdom to know the difference.
Thanks for recovering with us.